I'm so excited to welcome Melinda Sorensen, an Australian author whose love of magical realism, romantasy and nature have all come together into her debut novel, The Solstice Queen, which came out yesterday and is available on ebook and print on demand. Congratulations, Melinda, on the launch of your book.
So much, Selina.
You're welcome, and thank you for being on Weaving Words into Stories for Genre Fiction Writers today. I really appreciate you coming on board to talk to us about it. So I'll just do you a quick introduction. The Solstice Queen is about a young woman on a postgraduate trip of a lifetime to England, where she crosses into a hidden fairy tale world and must choose between the immortal guardians of summer and winter to heal the seasons and save humanity from climate change. In this battle, she is the key, and with two gorgeous rulers vying for her allegiance, love is the most dangerous weapon of all. Melinda's been a passionate bookstagrammer for a decade, and she says that since joining the Romance Writers of Australia 2 years ago, her writing journey has taken off, leading her to self-publish her first book. Melinda lives in Geelong, works in childcare and admin, and writes romance, devours romantasy, and sometimes a donut too, I hear. But she also runs a freelance editing business called Write On Editorial. So today, we're exploring Melinda's fiction writing and her editing life and hearing all about her road to publication. So once again, thanks, Melinda, for being here with us. Let's jump into it.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, of course, I've just introduced the Solstice Queen to everybody, but I really think it would be great if you could tell us a little bit in your own words about what the story is about, and if you can share with us any moments or stories that were the seed of this idea for you.
Yeah, sure. The heart of the story is two immortal kings fighting over the same woman.
Mhm.
So it's a love triangle. Love them or hate them, but I love them.
Them too.
I know they've fallen a bit out of favour lately, but I still like them. So it is a love triangle. The idea came to me. I love trees, so I have a lot of books on trees. And I was reading one called A Tree a Day. It has a story for 365 days of the year. And the story I was reading one particular day was about an old English folk tale called The Oak King and the Holly King. And it's used to explain the changes in the weather during the season and how spring and autumn are very changeable. The weather, you can go hot, cold. And I thought, what if they weren't fighting about controlling the weather? What if they were fighting over a woman? And I thought, oh, that's a great love triangle right there. So I also had another idea floating around in my head about what if the historical and mythical figures throughout human history, what if they've actually been the same person just over and over again? And these two ideas came together and formed the basis for the Solstice Queen.
Oh, wow.
That's how it came about.
Wow, that's so intriguing. And I love that you had a tree a day little stories, and that mythology was something that inspired you. But did you, it's probably a question a little bit later on, but I just want to bring it in now. Were you inspired by visiting the location where the story is? Can you tell people about the location of the story?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but it is...
Yeah, don't give too much away.
No. It is set in England. Most of the story happens in England, where my main female character, Rory, meets the two kings, is a location in England. Once I'd decided on that and had their court, summer court set there, the rest of the story just really came from a trip I'd done, my first trip to England in 18. And because of my love of history, mythology, nature, literacy, a lot of the places I visited on that trip fit perfectly for the story. It's really, Rory follows my itinerary a lot in The Solstice Queen. So I was able to weave a lot of the history and mythology of the places I visited into a story.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, I mean, really, readers, if you get the Solstice Queen, you can have a bit of a trip around the world, especially if you're in Australia, and have some
Definitely.
armchair travel. And I think that that ability to transport readers into another setting is such a great way of traveling for, just for readers. We get to experience different lives. And I love that you've used your own personal experiences to infuse the story with the setting. That's wonderful. And so you've mentioned Rory, and I've just started to read the story where she meets Quinn, and I'm already falling in love with him. And I think she's very funny. I love her interiority on the page. What are the other characters? Tell us a little bit about the characters and who first came to you.
There's four main characters. There's
Mhm.
the Oak King, the guardian of summer, and the Holly King, the guardian of winter. There's Rory, my main female character, and there's Mother Earth, who I've called Gaia. They're the four main characters, and the story really revolves around them. I think first the Oak King came to me pretty much fully formed. I wanted him to be the embodiment of summer, both physically and personality. So I just thought of what summer represented to me, and that's how he came about. I won't tell you which one he is. I won't give you the
No,
name.
it's for us readers to go and get your book and read and find out. Yes. Okay.
So next was the Holly King, who, as the guardian of winter, he's the opposite of the Oak King, the guardian of summer. So both in looks and personality, I wanted there to be a clear choice for Rory, a clear division between the two, so that it was hard for her to pick which one she was going to choose. So I made the two kings really opposites of each other. And then I thought next came Rory, and I wanted her to be someone who would fit into their world without too much difficulty. So for her background, I really had to think about what she'd studied, what her career was going to be, the upbringing that she had, what her parents were like, so that when she met the two kings, I didn't want her to be overly skeptical. I didn't want it to be too hard for her to believe them. Not straight away, of course, but I wanted it so that she had the kind of background that would let her believe in the possibility of these two immortal beings. So she was third, and I did a fair bit of thinking about that, but I think I've nailed that. And then next came Mother Earth, who she was one of those characters you hear writers say took off in her own direction, wrote herself.
Right.
She did not come onto the page as I first envisaged her. She really went off in a different direction, but it fit the story so well that I just went with it. And she is not what you would expect Mother Earth to be like, let's just say. Tell you exactly what she's like, but
I'm already incredibly intrigued now. I think this is one of the things I love to interview authors is the joy and excitement of revealing this through the story is conveyed through your voice as well. And what I really love is you light up when you talk about Gaia. She's obviously a favourite of yours.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She did her own thing, but
Did
I
she?
respect her for that.
Yeah. Fabulous.
She made a great twist.
Okay, right. Well, people, there's lots in this story. So how did you come up with the Summer and Winter King rulers? Like, I know that you were reading the Holly King and is it the Holly King or the tell me again what yes.
You can say it the other way around.
Okay, yeah. And did that immediately spark that you would do a romance? Or was the story forming towards something else?
No, it was immediately a romance.
Was it?
Straight away, I thought, what if they weren't fighting to control the weather? What if it was really about this woman that they both wanted and had actually been fighting over for a century throughout all of human history?
Yep.
And it immediately came to my mind, it was always a romance.
Okay, that's fantastic. And it does touch on climate change, which I think is such an important issue for us to be mindful of and consider. And I love that in creative writing and in art, we can go there, we can explore it. So, what was it about the climate change that really drew you to that particular conflict or that particular aspect of it?
I needed a reason why this time with Rory was particularly critical, urgent. I
Hmm.
wanted something driving the story that would make her decision critical for the world, for humanity. And climate change fits perfectly. And it's so topical. It's such an important issue now and into our future. So it just fit into the story so well. It helped drive the story along. And I also wanted to highlight, because the Solstice Queen is so much about nature and the natural world, I also wanted to highlight how much trouble the natural world's in at the moment. We've done untold damage to it, whether you believe in climate change or not. We have altered the ecosystem of this planet. And I think naysayers of climate change and politicians, they're just burying their heads in the sand. And unless we do something about it now, we're going to be in big trouble. So I wanted to
Yes.
highlight the story of the Solstice Queen.
Yeah, yeah, such an important point for us to really be not turning away from. And I think that writing can in itself be an act of activism and speaking for what cannot speak for itself. So, for example, nature does speak to us in some ways, and we turn deaf ears to it, unfortunately. And I think I'm really looking forward to reading more of the story to find out how that's weaved in to the narrative as well. Yeah, thank you. You've told me that this story draws on your personal experiences and, of course, your love of travel, and you went to England. What other personal interests influence the story?
Well, as I said earlier, I love trees. I recently ticked off a bucket list item of mine. I went to visit the largest tree by volume in the world, called General Sherman,
Yes.
which is in the Sequoia National Park in California. In July, it was. I went and visited the largest tree in the world and saw the other giant sequoias, which I mentioned the General Sherman tree in the book and the park because Rory visits there. It's one of her favourite places in the world. And it was a magical place. It was so beautiful. And so that's another way that my interest and a lot of me is in this story. I gave
Yes.
Rory a lot of my love and a lot of my interest. And so the giant sequoia is her favourite tree, and it's my favourite tree. So
Well,
that's how
yeah, go
I
on.
wove the two things together.
I'm just really keen to drill down a little bit and understand what it is that draws you to trees and what is magical about them for you as a person as well as in writing.
Yeah, I just find them fascinating. Without them, we wouldn't be here. We need them to live. The way that they can talk to each other, help each other. They're a community. We're finding out more about them all the time. 50 years ago, if you said, "Oh, did you know trees can talk to each other?" you would have been branded crazy. But now we know that it's true through
Yes.
their root systems, the chemicals they release.
Yes.
Uh, so I just find them fascinating. The longevity,
Yes.
the trees that can live for thousands of years, while we're just a tiny blip in time compared to them.
Yes.
Everything about
Ah,
them just really speaks to me.
I love that. I love that they have community and they work together. And I think it's is it like fungi that sort of talks to one another as well, and it can help the
Yes,
root systems, and it's fascinating. It's like world unto itself. Perfect
that's
for the creative writer as well. Now, you've mentioned that they were magical, which of course leads beautifully into
right.
what drew you to writing magical realism.
I love reading about magical realism, and it just fits the story of the Solstice Queen so perfectly. I
Hmm.
knew that it had to be set in the real world with a fantasy element. I wanted readers to explore the wonders of this world and to think about how amazing this world is. There's still so much about it we don't know, and I wanted to offer them my explanation for those wonders.
Yes.
So I really thought hard about my magic system. I wanted it to be plausible, not just a suspension of disbelief. So I thought long and hard about how it would fit into what we know scientifically. I wanted it to fit into the biology of this world, and magical realism allowed me to do that.
Wow. Because I'm really interested to find out a little bit more about how you came up with your magical system. I mean, in magical realism, we don't actually have to explain how the magic happens a lot like other
Yeah.
fantasy stories. So, I'm interested in your process of how you came up with the magical elements in your story.
Yeah. I treated it more like an undiscovered science.
Right.
That's how I get it explained to Rory through the two kings. That's what they tell her. It's just something humans haven't discovered yet with their microscopes and their scientific equipment. It's an element of the world. It's like a biological element of the world that we don't know about yet. That's how I came up with the system. To explain how this has played out over and over the years, I did originally give Rory the soul of another woman, and it was like reincarnation. But then that didn't fit with the direction I wanted to go in. I didn't want the religious connotations of a soul, and also a soul implied that she would actually be this other woman. She would have her traits of her personality, her memories, things like that. And I wanted Rory to stand alone as an individual. So I needed her to be this other woman, but not to be her, which
Right.
was probably the hardest thing I had to come up with. I did a lot of research and a lot of thinking, and I came up with something which I'm really happy with. I won't tell you what it is because, again, spoilers, but it allowed her to be a unique individual while still being a player in this ongoing story that the three of them have.
Wow. So you've given us lots of teasers in this chat already. So we're all going to be flipping pages to find the answers out, which is exactly how it should be with a story. We should be trying to find out what happens next, and that's wonderful. So apart from that, were there any kind of like challenges that you faced while building such a unique setting within our world?
Probably Rory's story
Mm,
that I've just explained, that probably was the biggest challenge. That really took me a while to figure out.
yep.
The other challenges setting up.
Did you take lots of notes or anything, or did you do a lot of like some people kind of take time to visualize it and just mull it over? They might spend years or months with their story before they come to write anything. Tell us about that process. How did you do that?
Well, I'm a pantser, pretty much, with a little dollop of plotting. So I didn't take years to think it over. I wrote the characters first. I did notes in my phone. So I did a character profile for the Kings and Rory first. And then I had a general overall story arc. The middle was pretty loosey-goosey, but I knew the start and the ending, and I just got stuck into it. And as I hit problems, I would dive deeper into them along the way and figure things out along the way. I did do a big change in plots just before the book was released. I had a beta reader tell me it was too obvious who Rory was going to pick through the title and through how much time she spent with him and how physical they were.
Right.
I actually went through and culled a lot of that out to make it more even, and it worked. I got lots of feedback saying, "Oh, we didn't know who she was going to pick right up until the end," so it was worth doing.
That's
I'm so glad I
fantastic.
did that. Yeah.
And beta readers are so important, and getting feedback on your story is super important for shaping it. Because we are, as writers, in the process, we're in the story. So there's
Yeah.
almost like a burden of knowledge that we have that may not get on the page. And, those people reflect back to us what's missing. And I think that's real gold. So I'm really pleased to hear that you tapped into your wonderful community of beta readers and writing friends.
So essential
Mm,
because you've read it so many times, you've looked at it so
mm.
many times. To use a tree analogy, you can't see the forest for the trees
That's right.
or the trees for the forest, whichever way it goes.
Doesn't matter. But you're right.
Feedback is so important.
Yeah, it just puts up a bit of a reflection as like, oh, I don't understand why this character did this, for example. And then you, as the writer, get a chance to go back and plant that in so that they're not pulled
Mm.
out of that dreamlike state of the story. Of course, talking about the love triangle and the romance thing, what is it that you love most about being a romance author?
I've read romance since I was young. I used to sneak my grandmother's Mills and Beans and read those.
Yes.
I've been a romance reader my whole life, and now I get to tell the stories I want to read. I get to control what's happening
Mm.
to a certain extent. And it's thrilling to put in things that I love to read into my story and to think
Mm.
that other readers will be excited by what I've would
Yes.
refer to it as the butter that I've put into my story, which is the good bit.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. What is it that so no, let me rephrase it. How did you come to begin writing romance? Like what was your journey into the romance writing world, for example?
Many decades ago, I had a story idea. It was a contemporary romance, and I started it.
Mhm.
It ended up being a very short story, and it got put in the drawer, and that's where it's sat ever since, and it will never see the light of day. And
So
then I put my writing aspirations aside.
mhm,
Life gets in the way.
mhm,
And then I became a bookstagrammer,
mhm,
and I've been on Bookstagram for over 10 years. I started, then the story idea for the Solstice Queen came to me. I started writing that. I worked on and off on it for 2 years. Then I came across RWA, Romance Writers Australia, and I became a member, and that just kick-started. I thought, right, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to really do this. And for the next 2 years, I learnt about writing. I learnt about publishing. I became friends with fellow authors. I went to their book launches, and I went to RWA conference, and I learned so much, and it's why I'm where I am today. And so it's always been about romance for me.
And did you I love that. And did you find that you're finding a community of like-minded writers who also are as passionate about romance as you are, how did that really help shape you as a writer?
Oh, immensely. I've learned about the technicalities of writing,
Mm.
um, the the tropes that romance
Mm.
involves, um, reader expectations, what they want in their romance, how the
Mm.
market works. I've learned about self-publishing, traditional publishing. It's
Mhm.
really guided my romance writing in so many ways, down from the very basics of punctuation and tense up to the big picture things of character development and story arc, what the beats of romance, what the acts need to put into it, like the third
Mm.
act, breakups,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so many things about romance I wouldn't know if I hadn't joined RWA.
Yes, yes. I mean, I remember when I first joined, which is very many years ago now, because I had one year off. But I joined because I was like, I really want to understand how to write romance, and
Mm.
what better place to learn than a group of romance writers who love the genre. There's a wealth of knowledge, isn't there? And the conferences just they're just like a smorgasbord of learning opportunities and networking and connecting and finding friends and, just, yeah, it's just really fantastic. And I recommend it totally for anybody who's interested in writing romance. And with that sort of romance stuff, thinking about how you wrote your characters and you developed your romance over the time that you were writing it, what approach did you sort of take with developing the actual love triangle between the three characters? Did you sort of do, I don't know, Gwen Hayes romancing the beat, or did you sort of do anything of that, or was it more organic?
More organic, I'd say. As I said, I didn't want it to be easy for her to choose one over the other. I wanted it to be a clear decision. All right, I am actually in love with this person. This is who I'm going to choose. So I needed the two kings to be fully developed, rounded characters with good qualities and bad qualities, which would show at different times to drive the story along. So that, at one point she's leaning more towards the other, but then something happens, so she goes the other way, but then you don't know, then she's over both of them, and then something happens that makes her pick one of them over the other and decide, oh, actually, I have been in love with this guy the whole time. So, yeah, I wanted it to be a real tussle.
Beautiful. And I mean, that's great because, we've got real romantic conflict there as well. And I love a love triangle. I don't mind what other people say. For me, I love that there's this choice. It's a real dilemma. Like, which one will I go for? And that is so emotionally challenging for that main character that has to make that choice, because no matter which way they go, they hurt someone. And it's bittersweet. It's really is. So I love that you've done a triangle. I think there's a lot going for it. And do you have any specific themes that you were exploring through your journey of writing this particular story or writing romance? Do you like the themes come to you?
Yeah, there were some themes that they really came up organically too, which I like. Because this is a story that's been playing out for a long time, I wanted Rory to feel like she had control over the situation. So I wanted her to be proactive and not just along for the ride. So that was a definite theme throughout the book. I also wanted her to be loved for herself. So it was very important for her that the kings weren't just picking her because she'd been this other woman centuries ago. She wanted to be loved for who she really was now in this lifetime. So that was a very important theme for her and the book. And there was a lot of trust issues that came up between the three of them, especially with how they would announce information to Rory or try and influence her to be more on their side. They had a loose association with the truth in their own different ways, the two kings. And Rory would pick them up on this and say, hey, this is not on. You're not, you think you're telling me the truth, but you're not.
Yeah.
So the truth and trust were very important themes throughout.
Yeah. And it does sound to me like honesty played a big role in it too, like that sense of she wants honesty in her relationship. She wants, no matter what effect it has out in the world on climate change and such, there's this honesty is an important value for that particular character.
She wasn't, even with the impetuous of climate change, there's short time that I tried to infuse into how they had such a short time to choose and fix things. She wasn't going to go along with it just for that reason. She wanted a genuine, honest love.
What I love, what I'm hearing too, is that the character, Rory, has agency on the page. Now, something that as a coach I often see is, the main character gets swept along and everybody else does all the actions, and the main character's not really making any decisions. They're not really struggling with their choices. They're not taking action and being proactive. And what I've loved hearing is just how that was important to you as a writer. You know, that means she's going to be a great character for us to follow through the story. So,
Yeah, it was definitely important.
yeah.
I've heard that through the writing workshops and things I've done. Readers want a character who isn't just swept along by the story. So that
That's
was
right.
definitely important for me to
Yes.
incorporate that.
Yeah, well done. Love it. And so talking about tropes and stuff like that, I know I'm just moving to tropes. From themes to tropes. We're going to tropes. What is your favourite trope and why?
Well, I love enemies to lovers. That's my favourite trope.
It's my favourite trope too.
I couldn't quite fit it into this story. It's not quite enemies to lovers, but I got as close as I can. More strangers to lovers.
Yeah.
But I read a lot of romantasy, and it's a big trope in
Is it?
romantasy, and I just love it. The banter, the back and forth, the tension, the
Yes.
will they,
Yes.
won't they, all the obstacles that are put in their way that they have to overcome, and there's so much
Yes.
it's my favourite.
I think for me too, I like I like friends to lovers as well, because I like that they already have a relationship and that they've never been able to sort of really go beyond that, and that loss of friendship too. But I love a good enemies to lovers because it is great. There's a lot of tension that happens as they struggle with their feelings. It's great. What does your writing process look like? Like, do you have any rituals or anything that you do to help we get into the writing flow?
Yeah, I don't actually have any set rituals. Something I have noticed is I can have the TV on while I'm writing, but I can't listen to music. It just drags me out of the story. I think I get too caught up in the song's lyrics. But whereas the TV, I can have on just as a white background noise. Yeah, I could have written all over the house. I've written on my phone while I'm traveling. I don't have to have a set place or set things around me. So I don't really have a ritual, but yeah,
And
I
so,
can have the TV on.
is your writing process like? Do you have 2 hours every week that you, or like every day, half an hour? What kind of writing process do you have that helps you to continue to get words down on the page?
Yeah, I found I don't have set times, but I did find myself during the writing of this book writing a lot late at night.
Did you? Yes.
Yes, the muse would come and I would be typing away and it would be 12, 1 o'clock, and I'd be like, this is not good. You should be sleeping. But it was just when I felt inspired, so I had to go with it. Don't believe in making yourself write every day. I mean, it's good if you can, but the pressure of that, it's not good for you mentally or emotionally. Once I started to take it really seriously, I did try to write every day, but there were times when I didn't, and even days when I didn't. So I also can relate to making myself sit down and write when I didn't feel like it, because sometimes you need to get on with the story. So I would sit down, and how I'd overcome that is I'd just start writing. I didn't care what I was saying, whether the words were right. I would just start writing. Didn't matter what it was. I mean, it related to the story, but it didn't have to be perfect. And then as I went along, I would get into the flow, and it would start to flow, and then I was writing good stuff. That was one way I overcame reluctance to write a lot, but I didn't make myself write every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through a phase of like, I have to write every day, but it just like did my head in, and it makes me tired. So I think that for me, it's a regular writing schedule, but not slavishly attached to it. And what I was going to ask you too is, how did you process your feedback? Like for me, when I get feedback, it takes me a couple of days for my brain to be able to cope. Like first is the emotion, but it's that Now what do I do with this feedback? Can you talk to us a bit about the feedback that you got from beta readers and how you implemented it versus, say, getting an editor's developmental edit or a copy edit, for example? How did you
Yeah.
cope with all of that?
Well, I agree. Don't react to it straight away. Sit with it for a bit.
Mm.
Mull it over, think about it, give yourself some space, come back to it. What I found helpful was to write down little notes or dot points about the feedback, and then look at it from that perspective. Also, you don't have to take all of it on board. Some of it I didn't. Some of it I was like, no, I'm not going in that direction. That doesn't fit into my story. I also took into consideration whether the reader was a big reader of my genre. So if they weren't, there were some things which I knew they just wouldn't get. Because I'm a big reader of romantasy and romance and fantasy, I knew there was certain things that my readers would be looking for, especially from the hero. And if the beta reader wasn't familiar with that, well, I could discount some of what they were saying. So there were some things I just didn't take on board, but then there was plenty of other things, especially if it was repeated by different readers. So if I was hearing the same thing from a lot of different people, then I knew that was something I really needed to look at, and it was probably pretty valid. So I would, I would work on those things. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too because we get from readers and editors as well who sometimes do this. They give their personal opinion, what they like in taste, for example, versus what the story arc is, the character issue, the issue. I don't know how you go, but it's taken me a little while to discern when it is an opinion versus true feedback that is really valuable to take notice of. I think it's something you learn along the way.
Yes, definitely. There were some things said to me which I just knew in my heart, like you just know instinctively, no, that's not for my story. So as you go along, the more experience you get, I think you learn what is true to your story.
That's interesting because your story's got a bit of talks about trust, and what you're talking about there is learning to trust yourself as well as the author of your story. We know our stories better than anybody else, so it is important to run it through that filter. And I love that you use the term, the phrase of you knew in your heart that this wasn't right for your story, and I think that's really valuable to listen to that inner voice about stuff in relation to your writing.
Remember, it is your story. Yes. At the end of the day, your story.
Yeah. And it's good to get feedback, but I think there's also a danger sometimes in trying to please every single person who's given feedback too. So there's that. It can be tricky for writers as well. So let's talk about you as an editor. You do editing for other writers. How has this experience influenced your own writing? As being an editor, how did that have an influence on your writing?
It's taught me a lot. When you get to see what other people are writing and you can see the good and the bad sides of other stories, I think it helps inform what you put in your own story. So I've learned a lot from being an editor, even researching and finding out things that I didn't know about the technicalities of writing, craft of writing. I have to look up things myself for other writers, and then I'm learning at the same time.
Yeah, so I do the same thing.
You do learn a lot by editing, and I get such satisfaction from helping other authors make their story the best that it can be. Helping it shine. It's so satisfying to know that you're helping someone out in that way.
Yeah, and because stories are so personal to the person as well, they're putting their vulnerability out there for the editor to care. And I know that some editors are, well, you're only paying me to tell you what's wrong with it. But I personally think that writers actually also need to know where they're doing well as opposed to what also needs to be addressed and considered as they do the next rewrite. So is that the sort of approach you have when you work with writers on their stories?
Definitely. You want to give positives as well as the negatives. No one likes to be doused in negativity. And you need to highlight the good things as well so that they know what those things are. So I do, when I come across something that's working really well or that I found funny or sexy, I like to put in a comment saying, "Oh, this is good."
Yeah, and I also like to put in why something isn't working. Do you ever go that far as to explain what is the issue and how it's why it's not working?
Definitely. I always give a reason. I don't just say, "Oh, I didn't like this." I always give a reason, and most of the time I'll offer options that they can. I like to say, "You can either do this or this," to give them some options of what they could replace.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important. I find myself, you've put years, or for me, years of work into my novel, and I'm giving it over, and it's a real partnership. It's a real trusting relationship that you have with your editor. So it's important to find the right kind of editor for you. And just to be clear, so if anybody is listening in on the editing specifically, what type of editing do you do? Is it developmental editing? Is it copy editing? Now, copy editing is like the line editing and happens much later in the process. Tell us about the types of editing you do for clients.
I offer all editing services. So I do developmental editing, which is early on in the process. If you want to know how you're going with the big picture items like plot, character development and art, pacing, the overall tone of the story. I do a package copy editing and proofreading because I found I was doing those two things together anyway. I put it in the one package where this is pretty much you're almost ready to get your book out there towards the end of the writing process, where you're looking at the smaller picture things like punctuation, grammar. Have you got all the detail? Consistency. Have you got all the details correct? Are you using the right speech mark? All the smaller picture things like that. So I offer both.
Yeah. I tend to think of developmental editing as it's like you're offering people an opportunity to see what their great big red light issues are that is really stopping the story from getting on the page and being what it needs to be, with bones and bit of muscle and all that sort of stuff, so that later on you can do it up and make it fancy with your copy editing and refine it so it's wearing a beautiful dress to the ball. It's kind of it's got a couple of different phases. So do you have any
way to put it.
do you have any sneaky editing tips that you could share with aspiring writers, say for example in the developmental editing phase, or wherever you like?
A couple of things which I've found personally useful is, one, the first half of your book is going to be the most polished. It's what you're going to go over again and again and again, because you want to get the beginning just right. And by the time you get to the middle or the end of the book, you're tired, you might be feeling a bit over it.
Yep.
So to combat that, cut at the back and work backwards.
Right. Okay.
And then you're looking at the back of the book with fresh eyes, and you'll end up with a second half as polished as the first half. So
that's a great tip.
Yeah, I found that really helpful myself. The other thing I like to do is instead of going through the book and trying to fix everything, pick one or two issues and go through the book only looking for those issues.
Right.
It means you'll have to go through it more times, but I think it's more productive, and you won't overlook so much doing it that way. So maybe you'll go through and, let's say, look for you've got the right point of view. So you go through the book, you make sure the story's from the right point of view through the whole thing, and then the next time you might go through and look at spelling, or the next time you might go through and make sure you've got the right tense in the story.
Yes.
It's very easy to go from past to present tense.
It is, isn't it?
I find if you're just looking for one or two things, it's less likely you'll look over something and miss it. It's just in the end, I think it ends up being a more productive way of editing.
Yeah,
So that's my second tip.
I'm going to take your first tip and apply it because I've just finished a novella and had some developmental feedback on it. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to approach this? So I'm actually going to do it from the back to the middle and then onto the front
Great.
and that sort of stuff and see how it's going. And then I think breaking things down into manageable editorial chunks is so valuable because then oh, okay, all my point of views are solid.
Yeah.
They're not no head hopping and you're slipping into other doing point of view errors where you slip in to another character's perspective midway through. It's like there's all those opportunities to fix that. Great tips. Thank you for sharing those. How did you prepare for your release of the Solstice Queen? What have you learned about yourself in the process of doing self-publishing?
Well, self-publishing is hard.
Mm.
I'm going to be honest about that. It's hard. It will test you.
Yep.
But I learned you need to be committed because there will be so many obstacles, and if you want to get there, you've just got to push on through. You need to be organised. Things need to be done. There are steps to take, and some things have to be done in a certain order. So you need to be organised. Think ahead. Plan your release date at least 6 months in advance, I would say, so that you can be organised. So you can write down the steps you need to go through and have everything in place, ready to go. Your website, your newsletter, your ARC readers, your release team, if you want to have those. You need to know where you're going to publish, what formats you're going to publish in. You need to have your cover in place. Your cover is so important.
Yes.
Professional about. You need to organise your ISBN. So there's a lot to do, and you really need to plan. That's what I've learned through this class.
Well, when I put out Unburned, which is my short story, it's a bit of a horror with romantic elements, didn't realise that you put it into Amazon and then they take up to 7 days before they do their stuff in the background and then it becomes live. And if you have an error on it, you need to resubmit it again and it goes through a 3 to 5 day or 7 day, whatever it is, cycle again before it uploads again. So you need to be aware of that time frame as well. Just one thing I wanted to ask you about where did you get your cover? Like, how did you find that cover? It's gorgeous.
I had it professionally designed. I went on to Reedsy Studio, where it's a web
studio.
Yeah, it's a website that connects self-publishing authors with cover designers, illustrators, editors, all the professionals you might need to self-publish, things that you don't want to do yourself. So I went on there, and you can look through their portfolio, and you can query up to 5 cover designers at a time, and you give them your synopsis and you see if they're interested, and you give them a budget, and they get back to you and you choose which one you want to work with. So that's how I found my cover designer, Andy Bridge.
Andy Bridge, who
was brilliant to work with. He was so patient and understanding with me. I gave him some ideas of what I was looking for, and he mocked up a couple of covers for me, and I loved the idea. I wanted it to look like an old leather journal, like something you might find at the back of the bookshelf that had been there for hundreds of years. And he was able to give me that, and we tweaked the images on the front a bit, and he was so understanding. And when we ended up with the final.
Yes, can you show? Oh, look. So it's a beautiful brown cover. For those people who are on audio, it's a gorgeous brown cover. And is that kind of like a golden sort of earthy colour to the text, to the font? And there's a beautiful
gold leaf.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I've got it here on Kindle in black and white. Again, not as snazzy in black and white, but it's still awesome. The words are still great. Thank you for showing us that. I think probably connect with other self-published writers if you can to find out those things, because you don't know.
Podcasts. I learned so much from listening to podcasts about self-publishing. The Spa Girls, even Reedsy have their own self-publishing podcast.
Yeah.
I learned so much, but as I was going along, there were things I didn't know that I still had to learn, like you say, about Amazon taking so long to put your book up. There are just things you don't know until you're doing them. But
Yes. Yeah, perseverance. I think that is something you need at every stage of the writing career. You need to persevere, you need to be persistent, and you need to believe in yourself and your story as well, because those things will keep you motivated to continue. Because it is an up and down journey. It is emotional to write a book and publish it, at least in my experience. I'm just going to skip to some marketing. How are you marketing your story now that it's just come into the world? And also prior to that?
Yeah. I'm mostly on Instagram. So I have a Bookstagram account and an author account. I'm doing most of my marketing through those accounts. I will run an Instagram ad within the next week or two now that it's out. I have a newsletter on Substack and I have a website.
Great. So do you want to tell people who your Instagram handle for your author site and your website and maybe your Substack so that we know where we can find you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm on Instagram as Melinda Sorensen Author, and I'm on Substack as Melinda Sorensen. My website is melindasorensen.com.
Are you writing anything now? And can you share anything about it?
There's a book too of the Oak King and the Holly King, which is the story of the king that Rory doesn't choose. It's a story of how he finds his love and he's happy ever after. Yeah. And release day has inspired me so much to get stuck back into it.
Yes.
I started it about 12 months ago, and I've written 15,000 words. But then I realised that I had to go back to the first book and polish it and get it ready for publishing. So it has been put aside, but I'm ready to get back into it.
And how does it feel to be published now?
Amazing. It's surreal, actually. I still can't quite believe it. It hasn't sunk in yet, but I think it will.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it feels fantastic.
Yeah.
It's the culmination of a long journey.
It is. And that's what I put in my acknowledgements. Even though mine was just a short story, I was like, this is years in the making. Even though it's one little story, it takes a while for you to learn your craft and to learn to polish it and to learn to take feedback. That's my experience. I don't know if that's for everybody, but that's my experience. So one more time, where can people find you and especially your book online?
My book is available through Amazon as an ebook and a paperback. And you can find me on Instagram as Melinda Sorensen Author or Substack as Melinda Sorensen.
I'll say thank you so much for such a fantastic conversation today. Thank you, Melinda Sorensen, for your time, for your generosity, for sharing everything that you have done with us. And also thank you for writing The Solstice Queen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What a fantastic conversation that I've had today with Melinda Sorensen. I'm so glad, and I really hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I did. And if you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving a review for the podcast or a comment on the YouTube channel. Your feedback really does help other authors get this information and helps us to grow this community and build the channel. So don't forget to share this episode with your writer friends and your reader friends too, if you think that they will enjoy The Solstice Queen. And spread the word and empower each other so that we continue to write stories that matter to us and have fun doing it. If you're looking for more support to help you with your writing and writing your story, say coaching, do head over to my website, empoweredwords.com.au. I offer fiction book coaching to help you unlock your creativity and take your writing of your story to the next level. Until next time, thanks for joining Weaving Words into Stories for Genre Fiction Writers with Selina. Bye for now.